Now I ask you this question. Did God clothe Adam and Eve because they were naked? Or did he clothe Adam and Eve because they felt naked? Well, hello, my friends. Welcome back to Embrace the Question. It's No Shave November, and that's my story, which I will be sticking with. Hope you're all doing well, staying warm in your part of the country. I know some of you live literally on the equator, and it stays warm all the time. I am jealous, but I'm glad you're with me, and I thank you for watching this video. We are taking our time going through Exodus, and we are doing our Bible study with me. We're in Exodus chapter 12, and I've been pondering for the last week how to present this chapter, because this is one of the most pivotal chapters in all of Scripture, pivotal to both Judaism and Christianity. This is the chapter of the institution of Passover. So it's deep. It's deeper than any chapter has a right to be. And it's tough. And I don't want to just verse by verse it, really. I want to give you a little bit more because this is an opportunity to really gain an understanding of the Bible in general, God's plan for the ages in general. I'm not saying I know all of the mysteries, but certainly this is a very vital key to understanding what God's plan really is and what he's already done. So let's start with that. Before we hop into Exodus chapter 12, let's just talk about some, I won't say fundamentals. Maybe they're things that pastors, teachers don't hit on very often. One is God is always preemptive. He never reacts. Okay? He always knows what he's doing before he does it. There is no taking him by surprise. There is no plan B with God. It's not like he created Adam and Eve, they messed up, and now he's left pulling his hair out going, oh no, what am I going to do now? No, he always knew what was going to happen. 1 Peter describes it this way: but with the precious blood of Christ, as of a lamb without blemish and without spot, who verily was foreordained before the foundation of the world, but was manifest in these last times for you. What's Peter talking about there? He's talking about Passover, the lamb slain at the foundation of the world. Actually, John uses that very term in Revelation chapter 13, the lamb slain at the foundation of the world. Passover at the foundation of the world? And why? Remember, he never reacts. He's only working preemptively. So let's think about that. Let's move forward thinking that Passover, although this was something new to Israel in Egypt, wasn't something new to God, and we can prove it in Scripture. Let's hit on a couple of points here. First of all, let's go back to the garden and think, well, God has created the garden. He's on day 6, and he turns and talks to his heavenly hosts, and he says, guys, today I am going to create man. And all of the heavenly hosts turn and look at each other and they say, new beginnings. They've watched him create before. Maybe they've even watched him create some of their own. I don't know. They know he's a creator. That's his persona, right? He's the creator. So when he says, I'm going to create man, they say, new beginnings. But then God says, but man, we're going to have to walk him through a storm. And all of the angels looked at each other and said, oh, here we go. Here we go. They know that we're about to introduce a process, not just a new beginning, but a new process, a new flow of events. It's not just like everything's going to be done as soon as he creates that man. No, he's going to create the man, and he says, because man is going to behave a certain way, he's going to go through a storm, and he's going to become disillusioned. All the angels looked at each other and nodded. Okay, here we go. He's going to become disillusioned. How do I know this? How do I know this? Is this in Scripture? Let's look immediately at what happens after the fall. What does Adam and Eve do after the fall? They hide. They hide. They hide in the bushes. They're in the bushes. They're naked. They're looking at each other going, what are we going to do? We need to weave some clothes out of some of these leaves here. God asks them a question. He says, who told you that you were naked? Who told you that you were naked? Let me clothe you. Now I ask you this question. Did God clothe Adam and Eve because they were naked? Or did he clothe Adam and Eve because they felt naked? If you can answer that question correctly, you will have a revelation of the heart of God. Let's fast forward several thousand years. Jesus is in a boat full of his disciples. And the boat, he is sound asleep. The boat looks like it's going to sink. They're in a storm. The waves are high. The wind is high. They wake him up. And they say, Master, don't you care that we're all about to die? I ask you this question. Did Jesus calm the storm because they were about to die? Or did he calm the storm because they thought they were about to die? Again, the correct answer will give you the heart of the Father. He does things to remove the stress off of you because of your faulty mindset and my faulty mindset. See, mindsets will kill you. Mindsets will determine everything in your life. We have the wrong mindset. Who told you you were naked? Who told you you were about to die? Wrong idea. And we adopt it and we embrace it 100%, right? Mindsets will get us. Paul writes it like this. In Colossians 1, verses 21, he says, and you that were sometime alienated and enemies in your mind by wicked works, yet now he has reconciled in the body of his flesh through death to present you holy and unblameable and unreprovable in his sight. That's a lot of big words, but the one that jumps out at me, the phrase that jumps out at me is enemies in your mind. You've got a problem with your mindset. Your mindset can become your undoing. And we know, moving forward, Israel is going to struggle with their mindset, no matter what they go through, no matter what works they see, they still are going to walk away with the wrong mindset. So now we're ready, I think, to get into the text of Exodus 12 and start to put together some pieces of this puzzle of what Passover might really be about. All right, here we go. Exodus chapter 12, verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. What's God doing? He's creating a new beginning. And all God's people said, new beginnings. That's what he's doing. He's resetting their calendar. He's resetting their calendar. What was not the first of the year, he's now saying, this will forever now be your new year. You can mark the spot, mark this date. And we'll talk about the date here in a moment. This will be the first month of the year to you. Speak unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month. So the month is actually Nisan, Nissan. The month of Nisan, on the 10th day of this month, they shall take to them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for a house. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb. What's the idea? There's going to be a lamb consumed in this event. A lamb must be consumed, and it will be consumed by the whole house. And if your house is too small, then you have to invite some neighbors in. So we have too much here. We have to share. It's more than we can consume. You guys help us eat it. So they would just bring the neighbors in, and they called it the whole house. All right, verse 5. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You'll take it out of the sheep or of the goats, and you will keep it up until the 14th day of the month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. All right, let's stop right there. So when is Passover? It's on the 14th. That's when the lamb is killed. That's Passover. That's when Nisan 14 is when Jesus died as our Passover lamb. What's important about that date? Let's step back and take a look. Let's go on back to Genesis. If you don't remember this lesson, this is from our Bible Study with Me Genesis series, way back when we did that. But let's take a look at Genesis 6:13. And God said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth. What's God saying? He's saying, I have had it with the flesh that causes men to stumble. So I am going to consume it in judgment here. He's about to send a flood, and the flood is going to kill all flesh. All right, now let's shift over to Genesis chapter 8 and take a look at the first 4 verses here. And God remembered Noah and every living thing and all the cattle that was with him in the ark. And God made a wind pass over the earth. There's that word, that phrase, pass over. And the waters assuaged. The fountains also of the deep and the windows of heaven were stopped. And the rain from heaven was restrained. And the waters returned from off the earth continually, and after the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated. And the ark rested in the 7th month on the 17th day of the month upon the mountains of Ararat. Now, what's so important about that? It's the date, because we are dealing here with the same month that God says it was the 7th month in Noah's time. But now it's the first month. So God has shifted the calendar here. He's made the 7th month the first month. The 17th day of that month is 3 days after they kill the Passover. So what we've got here is a picture of Resurrection Day, when Noah finally comes to rest again. There is no more flesh. It's a picture of dealing with resurrection life, which is what we're all heading towards, right, through this event of Passover. Passover is a bit of a dress rehearsal. That word in the Hebrew is moed, and we can see that again, Genesis chapter 1. So we can slide down here to the fourth day, verse 14. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years." Not seasons, summer, winter, fall, spring. My goodness, where did I get that from? Spring, summer, fall, winter. There we go. That's in order, right? I'm so frazzled. Not that kind of seasons. No, if we take a look at verse 14 and skip over here to our KJV plus and look at the words, let them be for seasons. The word is moed, and we can blow that up so you can see it. It literally means a festival, conventionally a year, but by implication, an assembly for a purpose. So think of it as a festival. It's a high holy day, a holiday. And that is what the lights in the skies are supposed to give us signs to direct us to have these holidays. That was the original intent. Okay, these are his holidays, his high holy days, and he's showing us how that comes about in our ecosystem. He's going to divide up the moon and the stars to shine light certain times and give us markers on when to start celebrating, and that is what he's revealing to Israel over here in Exodus chapter 12. Okay, so we'll swap back over to Exodus chapter 12, go over to ESV again. You'll keep it into the 14th day of the month, right? That's Passover, when the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel will kill their lambs at twilight. Then what? Then they shall take some of the blood and put it on the two doorposts and the lintel. The top is the lintel of the houses in which they eat. What's the importance? What's the significance? How did they do it? Well, I imagine that they had a basin, probably made of clay, possibly of wood, but probably of clay. They slaughtered their lamb. This was not fun, right? If you have kids in the house, keep a lamb for 4 days and see how that's received by your kids, right? A painful event, Passover. They slaughter this lamb. They drain the blood into this basin. They take some of the blood out of the basin. They put it on the lintels, the lintel and the doorposts. That the ancient Jews believed this was in the sign of the Tav. That's an old X in the script. Okay, so you've got an X here and an X here and an X above the door. So you've got a cross, and a cross. It's a picture of Golgotha, right? It's a symbol. The ancient script of Tav is an X. Again, a lot of scholars think that this was the sign that God painted on the forehead of Cain whenever he was to be protected and sent out. Cain says, "Now everybody's out to kill me." God says, "No, not anybody will be allowed to kill you. I'm going to put a mark on you, the mark of Cain." It was to save his life. It was a mark of protection. It was a cross. It was a Tav. Okay, that's the ancient scriptological representation of a Tav. The last letter of the Hebraic alphabet in script, which is all they would have had back then. So if they had that placed on the two doorposts and the lintel, then they were safe as long as they were in the house. Okay, we have a lot of folklore around the lintel and the blood, right? If you know anything about Dracula and the story of Dracula, don't invite him in. Don't let him across the doorway. Don't let him through, because once he's in, he's in. And it all has to do with blood, doesn't it, with Dracula? Okay, let's continue on here because we can get off in the weeds easily with me. So they're going to put the blood on the two doorposts and the lintel of the house in which they eat it. Verse 8, they shall eat the flesh that night, roasted on the fire with unleavened bread and bitter herbs, they will eat it. Why? It's a good question. Do not eat any of it raw or boiled in water, but roasted, its head with its legs and its inner parts. And you'll let none of it remain until the morning. Anything that remains until the morning, you'll have to burn it up. Why? Why all of this? Let's talk about the first thing. You roast it. You roast it with fire. You don't boil it. And if you can't consume it all, you burn it up because you don't want any flesh left. It's about the destruction of all flesh, to go back to Genesis and the Noah story. The destruction of all flesh. Let's get rid of everything that weighs you down. It's your flesh. That's what the New Testament has it comes through, and Paul describes just live by the Spirit. Don't live by the flesh. The flesh just brings you down, right? These are the teachings of Paul. It's really the teachings of Jesus. Live by the Spirit. Walk by the Spirit. You can't boil it in water because that you can't get rid of it that way. Everything has to be consumed. Like later, there will literally be sacrifices where all of sacrifice has to become smoke. And it's a picture of moving from the fleshly realm into the spirit realm. Okay, that's the whole picture of that. Eat it with bitter herbs. Why eat it with bitter herbs? Because again, this is a time that is hard. It's a bitter time. Your kids are wailing. Your wife is crying because the kids are upset. Dad doesn't want to have to kill the lamb because deep down he has fallen in love with the lamb too. And yet here we go. Here we go. New beginnings. This is what it takes to defeat a mindset. Okay, let's keep going. Verse 11. In this manner you shall eat it, with your belt fastened, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. You shall eat it in haste. It's the Lord's Passover. So you're eating it with an expectation that things are changing, and they're changing fast, and I have to be ready. I have to be ready to go. That's why all the angels looked at each other and said, let's go. It's time to go. Let's get a move on. For I will pass through the land of Egypt that night. I, the Lord, will pass through the land of Egypt that night, and I will strike all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And on all the gods of Egypt I will execute my judgments. I am the Lord. If you have a Bible you're following along with, that is a good one to highlight. Highlight it. I'm executing these judgments on all the gods of Egypt. It doesn't really feel that way, does it? I mean, who's crying? The gods? Are the gods crying? Impossible to know, right? All the people are going to be crying because there's not a house in Egypt where there will not be a death, it says. Okay, verse 13. The blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are, and when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and no plague shall befall you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. And this day shall be for you a memorial day, and you shall keep it as a feast to the Lord throughout your generations, as a statute forever. You shall keep it as a feast. Okay, so then here we go. We're establishing a precedent. We're establishing an institution forever, he says. I tend to believe that this will always be celebrated, even throughout eternity. I don't think there will always be sacrifice involved because Jesus is our sacrifice once and for all. But I believe moving forward, he will be the celebrated one at the center of this day, as he should be. Jesus has brought salvation by becoming our death. The death that we were expecting, he has become it for us. And that is a huge subject, and it confused people all through the New Testament when he talked about it. John chapter 10, talking to Mary, he says, anyone who believes in me, Mary, will never die. Do you believe this? And Mary's like, what? What? This is a subject that is hard to get your mind wrapped around. But think about this. One lamb for one house. One lamb for a firstborn. Either the lamb has to die or a firstborn has to die. These are interesting subjects to just try to meditate on, try to wrap your mind around a little bit of it. But this is all established here in Exodus chapter 12. And as you can see, we've seen that Noah had his little part of it too. He didn't know what was happening. In fact, Hebrews 11:7 says, by faith, Noah being warned of God of things not seen as yet by him, moved with fear, prepared an ark to the saving of his house, by the which he condemned the world and became heir of righteousness, which is by faith. A righteousness by faith. 14 verses in, let's stop right there. So when you're talking about Hebrews, the meaning of Hebrew is to cross over. What have we crossed over from? We've crossed over from a place of the flesh to a place of the spirit. We've crossed over from a place of walking by what we can only see with our eyes to a place where we walk by faith. This is what made Abraham the father of the faith and the father of all Hebrews, those who cross over. What's about to happen to Israel as a nation? They're about to cross over, not only through the waters of the Red Sea into the desert, which is a salvation, right? It's a salvation from Egypt, but they're going to cross over the Jordan, the Spirit, into a land of promise. Those who cross over. So I hope your mind is frying and you got little wisps of steam coming out of your ears and that type of thing, because this should provoke that kind of reaction from you. It's really good stuff. It's really deep, and I love it. But we need to take our time on it. So we'll stop right there, verse 14, 15, and we'll start again this time next week. Hope you guys are having a blast of a week and getting ready for holidays. Remember to log on to solwaycoffee.com and buy yourself some coffee, okay? Get that done. That's important. Love you guys. Till next time. Peace.